Hi, everyone. I'm Fernando Swartz. I'm the Vice President of Research and Development here at New Age. I've been in the research and development field for over 17 years with vast experience in food, household, cosmetics. I've also done everything to textiles. I have several degrees in food science. I've got a process engineering degree. I've also have degrees in nutrition. So a lot of experience has led me to New Age, which I've been for 2.5 years. And I've really mainly focused on development, which is really exciting, and have delivered both products on the manufacturing side as well as retail side. So really excited to be sharing with you guys today and leading a team of phenomenal product developers and researchers, creating product that is exciting but also transformational for you. I'm joined by Brett West, which is our Senior Director of Research. Brett, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Fernando. As you said, I'm Brett West. I've graduated from a couple of universities and have degrees in molecular biology, pharmacology, and toxicology, and have been doing research in dietary supplements and healthy foods and functional foods for about 25 years. And been able to work with government agencies and doing safety research and presenting that and getting even some of these ingredients approved as new, safe, novel food ingredients in various countries around the world. So I've had a lot of time and opportunity to think about what is important in dietary supplements and what is valuable. And that's what we're going to talk to you about today.
Thanks, Brett. And that's key what Brett said. So we know there are so many dietary supplement, nutritional supplements, food supplements out in the market. And it's really key for us here at New Age to ensure that you know what is right for you. And we have established certain criteria that we use during research and development that we use as a checklist, and we want to share these with you. Brett, do you want to kick us off with some of the considerations that you think about during your research stage?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So the first thing we're going to consider is, I got a list here that we're working through, kind of a checklist that we often use. But first of all, is there any published, peer-reviewed, or compendial, meaning like an official publication from a government or authoritative organization? So is there any published, peer-reviewed, or compendial information on the potential health benefits of a specific ingredient of the product that we are going to intend to use in a product? Or if there's a finished product, in your case, if you're looking at it and some main feature ingredient, is there any of that published, peer-reviewed, or compendial information to support its health benefits? And that's important. And that's where we begin. And then next, we want to know if that ingredient, among that published information, is it based on a human clinical trial? Has there been a human clinical trial that's been completed and has shown some health benefit? And then third, does that health benefit match up with what the product is claiming to treat? For instance, let's say we look at an ingredient and we're looking at including it in an immune support product. Well, if the clinical trial data is on joint health then maybe we've got the wrong match, right? We want to see stuff that helps support the healthy immune system in the clinical trial. So there's some examples. And that's just the first three. Fernando, back to you on some of the other things we consider.
Thanks, Brett. So when we as Brett mentioned, we would look at clinical studies to be able to show how this specific ingredient benefits the body. But we also want to look at the forms, because that's key for us, because not all forms of nutrients are made equal. Key things that we look at is when we select a mineral is what studies has been done to show the form's bioavailability, because that's key for us, delivering nutrients that's bioavailable for the body to use. We also do certain things where we select type of ingredients that will benefit the body better. As an example, we will use mineral-based ascorbic acids compared to using using ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, and can have an impact on the body. And also, when we go back to the data to understand, when we look at this clinical data, what form of mineral or what form of nutrient they've used to deliver on this benefit, because that's key for us when we put it in the formula, that it delivers on that and feeds back to the scientific data. Anything else you want to add there, Brad?
Actually, yes. So what you're saying is exactly correct. And that also applies to botanical ingredients. So if we look at a clinical trial and it's done on a certain plant, we need to know, is that done on a dried whole version of it? Is it on a juice? Is it on an extract? And if it's an extract, what is it, a water extract, aqueous? Is it an ethanol? How exactly was that prepared? Because that can have a big effect on what phytonutrients are present in that ingredient. We want to make sure that that clinical trial data actually applies to the finished product, that we're going to be delivering what was actually studied in the clinical trial. So those are details that we have to look at and make sure. And just like you said with the nutrients, the nutrient format, what is the best format for bioavailability? Which format was actually studied? Which form of this mineral or vitamin and how it's delivered. These are all important factors that we consider.
And I agree, Brad. So that's one of the key things. And then we also, obviously, we've selected these formats that are the best studied, that's the best bioavailable. But then we also need to ensure that there are safety data on this product. So, there's no point for me to say we have the best available product, but there's no data to show how safe it is in humans. And that's key because, there's maximum levels allowed. And that's key. Something that we have to look at is when we select this ingredient, we want to make sure that safety data has been done in that. Would you agree on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, if it's an extract, is it the right extract? The safety data that's been done, the research that's been done to demonstrate safety, does it actually apply to the ingredient we're using? Just because it's from the same plant doesn't mean it's the same material. Same thing again with the vitamins and the minerals. What are the best forms? What are the levels that are good to ingest? Do we have not only do we have enough of an ingredient, but do we, what is the limit? Is there any limit that sometimes is applied? Sometimes there may be a formal toxicology study, maybe a formal safety study. I've been involved in both of those and have done those personally and published that information. But sometimes the ingredient may not meet it. For instance, an apple and a banana, right? Everybody eats that. There's plenty of human experience. So if that is in place, then we feel pretty comfortable on the safety data. So sometimes human experience is important. And the same may be true, again, when I mentioned the first about compendial data, and human experience. Sometimes it's based, you might see this in the European Pharmacopoeia, German Commission e-monographs for dietary supplements. Sometimes there's a century or so of human experience with an ingredient that gives us some pretty good confidence in that ingredient being able to deliver some kind of benefit to our health and supporting our health. And again, the effective dose. And then something else that I know you've mentioned before and we're talking about here, are there ingredients that can aid in the bioavailability of something? And so maybe you have a little more commentary on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. When there's some ingredients that has bioavailability, but there's some ingredients that support that. And that's what we look at. So when we formulate, we go, okay, that ingredient is great. We look at the studies that's been shown. So we would add it at effective dosage, so there's things like bioperins, there's things like your lecithins that support certain ingredients to be more available to the body. And those we add onto it. And that's what you'll find in various of our products that has that, because it just gives it that extra, and it just helps the nutrient go to the correct part of the body. And then also key for me, Brad, I was just thinking that when we develop, we have what I call traffic cops as well. I don't know if everybody's familiar with those. And there's some ingredients that their function is just to direct the specific or target nutrient to the target organ. And that's something that we'll have there as well. So it's not just about putting the actives in there at their right dosage, being safe, being effective, but also adding those support nutrients or support ingredients that really drives, if I can call it, or directs the nutrient to the target organ. I mean, a simple example is we'll have, you have magnesium and calcium, that we know is great for bones, but then we'll add vitamin K and then we'll add vitamin D, because all those have specific benefits, ensuring that those two key nutrients get to the, the correct target organ or the bones, in that sense.
Yeah, I like that analogy of traffic cops. Yeah, you're right. There are different biochemical pathways that when we ingest a nutrient or phytonutrient, that the body can pathways, right? And an ingredient you add in may direct it down a certain specific area that we're trying to target, and that may help kind of move that as that ingredient is being metabolized. It's actually following a certain biochemical pathway to affect to end up with the final effect that we're hoping for specifically. And so that's the value of adding in those other supporting ingredients that you talked about. And so one thing that we haven't brought up here is there are some regulatory concerns, some, the different laws that each country has around the world. Those are things that we have to consider as well.
Yeah, I mean, can I just, before I jump into regulatory, because we all know regulatory is R&D's friend, but it can also be their foe, right? Not the team, but kind of the regulators that out there. But Brad, we've got to speak about, apart from the ingredients, we also want to ensure that the form in which it's delivered is important. That's why, we have various ingredients or products that will be best suited for a liquid. We have best products that is suited in capsule form. We have best products that suit in powder. And we also consider those to ensure that the form in which it delivers is the best for your body to use. And, we also look at certain things where we need a little bit of ingredient, a slight delay in the way it's released. I mean, probiotics a good example. That's how we have it in delayed release capsules. So those are the things that we consider as well. Is there any kind of, from your experience, that you've looked at that as well?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So there's some examples that are very well known. The CoQ10 is an ingredient that is often available, and how it's delivered in the format that it's delivered into the GI tract. It has a big impact on its bioavailability. So some things are more water soluble, and some things are more fat or lipid soluble. Think of your salad dressing, water oil mix, water oil is mixed. So some of these compounds that are the actually biologically active ones that are beneficial to the body, you got to have it in the right delivery system, like you said, form, so that the body can then use it properly. Otherwise, sometimes it may come out of solution, and you might have uneven distribution among your product. There's all sorts of things to consider, and this is a real science to make sure that everything is in the proper format. So.
Absolutely, and that's what we try and do, is deliver it in the best format. But now that we talked about kind of the considerations around ingredients, we know, as you said, regulatory. We are in so many countries, and each country, for some reason, just don't want to harmonize as well. So, those are the considerations that we take into account when we formulate. So the first thing that comes to mind is, simple: is this ingredient legal or regulated in the country that we have in? Some ingredients aren't. Some authorities, as they're called, would regulate things differently. And that's a key thing, that looking at your ingredients to say, is that ingredient regulated in that market, and what is the allowed in there? That's kind of a key consideration. I know there's a whole host of things as well that we sometimes have to do to get a product compliant to that market, so all the applications that we have to do, all the safety data that we have to do. And, Brett and his team really leads that a lot. Brett, do you want to share a little bit about the challenges and successes that we had from a regulatory perspective?
Yeah, sure. So you're right. Sometimes an ingredient is regulated or not allowed in the format we want to use it, simply because the government, the organization that assesses safety and is trying to ensure that people are, stay healthy, they just don't have information on it, right? So, for example, in the European Union, I will mention one product, noni juice. And then other parts of that plan. I spent more than a decade working in this area, actively doing research in there. And so sometimes you come in and there's no information or very little, and you have to go through all the steps of formally studying the safety of this product through all these formal toxicology studies, human clinical trials, a lot of nutrient and chemical analysis, and all this work that's involved. And it takes a long time, and you submit it, and then there's scientists that are appointed by the government agencies will go through and critique all that work. And so what they're looking for is, first, is it safe for human use? First, do no harm, the old Paracelsus idea. And then if you want to also make a claim, which we have in some markets as well for the product, so we get official approval that this helps with a certain function of the body. We've had that more than once. We have to do the research also. So we show the efficacy through the same process of formal research and then human clinical trials and going through that. And then you can fill in that void where the government can then say, okay, it is now allowed. Sometimes they have concerns because they know it's biologically active, and so they may have their governing philosophy may be that if it's biologically active, then we should regulate it. Not every country feels that way. Some countries feel that, like in the United States and in the EU and some of these countries, they have certain allowances for dietary supplements that can benefit. They recognize that it could be helpful to the body, but they don't see any need to control its, as a prescription, so forth, So that is something we consider. And if we feel very important about an ingredient and, strongly about it, then we'll go through that process. And then sometimes we may choose an alternate, versus another one and find which one is the best fit for that market.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. I think, we really, it's a very collaborative approach from us with our, our team here as well, the regulators, the regulatory team that we have here to try and deliver the products. And, it sometimes makes development quite challenging, but, once we have the success and we unlocked it, we deliver amazing products in the market. So those are, the regulatory considerations. So when we have a product in there, has gone through all either the authority, as Brett said, has reviewed it and said it's safe, or we had to submit data to actually show them something that has been consumed for, I would say, thousands of years is still safe to, is safe to use, because they just don't have that. So that's something to consider for you as well when you look at the ingredients, is knowing that, is this product in the market, it has gone through all those safety checks, and it delivers on the requirements of the authority or the market that it's in. So that was regulatory that we discussed, Brett. The last one is, I think, I think it's talking about the quality. So making sure that the quality standards that we have. So we've done all the great research, we've done, say, regulatory, but quality is just as important. Can you share a little bit on that, and then I'll add some more.
Yes. So let me summarize really quick on what we just had a long discussion on. First, is there human data to support this ingredient or the product? If it's on the finished product and there's human clinical trial, then we're good, right? You know that. But if it's not on the finished product, on the main ingredients, the featured ingredients, is it supported by human clinical trials for the effect that you're purchasing this for, or the benefit? Is the amount high enough to cover that in the human clinical trial? We want to make sure they match up, that you have enough in there, because sometimes products won't have enough. So those are the main things. And then also, does it work for your market? And is it the right format? Does it match up with what is discussed in the clinical trial? So now quality, that is a big important thing, because quality control is first to make sure it's safe, as that in the processing, there's not a contaminant that's been introduced. Number two, does it contain what's supposed to be in there? So this is where standardization comes in. Is this ingredient, has it been standardized so that each time it's made, are you getting the same amount of active phytonutrient, active nutrient, a vitamin, mineral, whatever we're putting in there? Does it deliver that every time? And also, does it is it stable over the shelf life? If you buy it and it has that active, that phytonutrient in there, or that vitamin in there, and it does for the first month or 2 or 6, then that's great. But you want to make sure it's there the whole time that you have on that expiration date. So when it's shipped to you, or you have it on the shelf, that it's still there. That's a big important deal. And so we can test for that internally, but you can also have third-party verification to ensure that you're matching that, making sure that that's there. So Fernando, I know that you've been involved in this for quite some time too, as well.
So I think we refer to that as the seal of approval. right? So, for us, there's certain stages for a product to carry a seal of approval, and it's the things that Brett mentioned. So when we source that raw material, all the things, is it safe? Is it at the right doses? All those. But then we also, when it arrives at, all our raw material needs to arrive with what's called a certificate of analysis, right? So the farmer, the producer that provides that raw material, it should arrive with a certificate of analysis that when we went through development and we agreed that should be in there. When that arrived, we verify that ingredient, what they say in the CFA or what we'd received, matches the CFA matches what we've agreed to. So that's kind of the first part of the seal for product to undergo the seal of approval. The second is we then, during manufacturing, we do inspections, right? So inspection verifications of the ingredient, making sure that it is full to the right standard, things like that. So that's key. And then we do final testing. So all our products get tested to ensure that, as Brett said, if we say something is on the label, or we say, a product, an ingredient is on the label, it's in there, right? That's key. And it will be there until end of life. And then external or third party validation, organizations that will come and test. And that's product to make sure that, it again says what it says it's on the label, and test for various other safety measures as well. So those are the key elements for seal of approval. And those are the key things that you should look at when trying to find, or source supplements is, do this party or this manufacturer or this company really go through all these stages? Are there some external verifications that they have in there? Also, what is their quality system? Do they have a quality system that they're proud of? How do they deliver that? Because all those things feed into, the experience of the product and the benefit. Because, we could say, some company, you could say there's this ingredient in there, but is at the right level? Has it been verified that it's in end of life? And those are all the stages that you follow through. And for something for you to look at when purchasing supplements is, what is the standard that this organization or company has? And ours is done through the seal of approval.
The whole point of all of this is to ensure that when we're designing products, that we make sure that they are made properly, they are actually value. They add value to people's lives, and that the hard-earned money that they're spending on this is money well spent, and we're delivering something to you that is worthwhile, and ensuring that through several layers of checks and several processes we have in developing these good products, and then verifying it internally and externally. And as you mentioned, the seal of approval, we have a number of organizations that we used for that as well. And so that's the whole point, is we kind of take it internally. If I'm going to go spend my money on something, what am I going to think through?
Yep.
And that's what's involved in the product development process. Is I'm going to take the position of the customer, and I'm pretending I'm the customer. What would I want to see? What would I want to see present? And if I'm going to spend my money, what do I want to have delivered? And that's the approach.
Absolutely. And I think that is so key, Brett, spending the money. And once you, for every, the dollar that you spend, my mission, I'm sure your mission, is to ensure that you get safe, effective product, but also product that is continuous quality, right? That, everything, the packaging, the way that it arrives you, all those are done to a great and quality standard. And that's key, for me and R&D, for us to continue to deliver on that as a business. So those were kind of the key considerations, Brett, that we had. I don't know if there's any closing remarks that you have.
No, the only thing I'd say is just pay attention and ask the hard questions, and know that we are doing the same when we're developing these products.
Absolutely, I agree. Never stop asking why and why not, because that's how we move innovation forward. So thanks, Brett, for joining me on this. And
thank you.
And I'm sure we'll do another one pretty soon. So, and thanks for everyone that has decided to watch this video of Brett and I sharing on considerations for ingredients and products.